This is the Night Shift Podcast, powered by Black and Gold Banneret, your home for news and analysis from all UCF night sports. The Night Shift starts now.
And we welcome you to this special edition of Night Shift. I'm Eric Lopez alongside Bryson Turner, Don Struble. We're going to talk UCF softball. The season is here, the 24th edition of UCF softball. We're going to break down this 2025 season. You're going to hear my conversation with head coach Cindy Ball-Malone. You're going to hear Don and Bryson's chat with Sierra Humphreys, as well as Don Struble's conversation one-on-one with Aubrey Evans, and Bryson Turner's chat with Kaitlyn Felton, a young Knights team. Will break down the schedule, year two in the Big 12, and of course the two gentlemen are ready to pepper me with questions, aren't you, Bryson and Don?
It's time for us to learn from the Sultan of Stickball.
That's right.
All right, keep it on blackandgoldbanneret.com all year long for the coverage on UCF softball, as well as all UCF sports. We're going to have UCF baseball preview next week. It's going to be a lot of fun. Got the golf previews right now on blackandgold.com. Bryce has been working on with interviews with Emily Marin, with interviews with Bryce Waller. He's got interviews with tennis coaches. We have preview the red hot tennis programs right now, the top 25, both of them. Men's basketball, of course, big season there. We're going to have it all on blackandgold.com. YouTube channel, you've got a ton of Media Day coverage from UCF Softball's Media Day is going to be there, as well as UCF Baseball Media Day. We're going to be covering that as well. That's all going to be up on the YouTube channel. And, of course, follow us on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, X, or they call it X, and much more on Facebook there. Don, where is the social media where they can find us?
Yeah, so find us on X, as Elo said here, UCF Banneret _SBN. You can also find us on Blue Sky, and I always mess this one up because it's such a long username. I believe it's UCF Banneret at UCFBanneret.bsky.social for Blue Sky. Find us on Instagram and Facebook at Black and Gold Banneret. Same with Threads. And then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you have not yet. We appreciate all the support that's been flowing there.
Awesome. All right. It is 2025 edition for the Knights. Their season will get going Thursday night. They will host first Cal State Bakersfield at 3:30, then the marquee one against Georgia. We'll break down the schedule later in the program, but it's a young Knights team, graduated 11 seniors, Bryson, a legendary senior class that you got to cover with me, historic, the most winniest senior class in UCF softball history, one of the greatest senior classes of all time. Put this in perspective. This decade, since Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty first stepped on the field in 2020, UCF ranks in the top 20 in the country in wins this decade in college softball. Top 20. It's pretty good praise there. So big class. So now it's got a young group here, Bryson. Starting with you, what's got your interest on this year's team?
Well, I'll go ahead and just mention with the senior class, because it transitions quite well into this. The good news is while they graduated 11 seniors, 2 of them will still be in the building for the Knights this year, as Sarah Willis and Shannon Doherty are both coming back as graduate assistants for head coach Cindy Ball-Malone this time around. We were I remember, Eric, we were at practice right after Media Day, and we got to see Sarah Willis, who has been a bullpen catcher for the Knights this time. So while I'm sure their on-field production will certainly be missed, their off-the-field contributions, that's the word I was looking for, that will still be there in the dugout. And I think that honestly, their off-field contributions were the biggest thing that those two bring to the table, especially considering the youth of this Knights squad.
Don, you're new to the coverage on the softball. You were there at Media Day. What had jumped out to you about this team and the Media Day?
Yeah, I think, it's as you mentioned before, Elo, this is a strong recruiting class. I believe you mentioned on In the Circles, this is a top 2 recruiting class in program history. However, it does translate to being a young roster, and so they're going to have to lean on the veteran presence of some of these ladies that have been there. And that was kind of a recurring question I had for each of the players I talked to is, that have been there for a while is, what do you hope to bestow essentially upon these young players that maybe you learned from veterans when you were coming in as freshman players? And in terms of the freshmen, I think that, that they have a tenacity about them that, that a lot of them have played high level high school ball, and they're ready for that to translate. Like I even asked Coco James, a California native, she has her favorite athlete listed as Kobe Bryant. So I asked her how the Mamba mentality manifests in her, and she just said, her work ethic and, just putting in the time. And so what I've noticed about this team, and Bryson can attest to this, just what Coach Ball-Malone said, and also what we heard from Cece, was that there's a good chemistry here. There's a good camaraderie, and that's going to be important with translating to on-field production. So excited to see.
One thing I actually remember Cindy Ball-Malone talking about that really stuck out to me is that she called this squad mature, which, given how youth heavy it is, it really does strike me a lot. And I think that you mentioned, Eric, that UCF has been a top 20 in wins over this past decade in college softball. And I think that the fact that these freshmen, these underclassmen, are being described as this mature has shown how much this program has evolved to become one of the higher tier programs in the nation, that such mature players are choosing to come here.
No doubt. They were influenced too by that 2022 run, Bryson. You and I covered there that magical season where they got to host a regional and win that regional for the first time in program history. Of course, the Knights have been to the NCAA tournament 4 straight years under Coach Ball-Malone, who enters her 7th season as head coach at UCF. She has a new staff as well. Becca Mueller is now the new head coach at Georgia State. Jen Salling went back to her alma mater at Washington. Nothing new for Coach Ball-Malone. She has 4 Division I current head coaches that that coached under her, either at Boise State or at UCF. Those are some of the topics I had a chance to talk to her recently. I interviewed her for a lengthy 1-hour interview on the In the Circle and D1 Softball Big 12 Media Week. You can catch that interview on In the Circle SB. We're not going to carry the entire hour interview, but we're going to give you a half an interview of it in case you missed it. And we pick up the interview where I asked her about her new staff this year, and Noah Sanders coming over from baseball, as well as Stacy Pastrick, the former Florida Gator, and of course the promotion from Shannon Sale. And here's what head coach Cindy Ball-Malone had to say about her new coaching staff. I could tell you've gotten this podcast thing down pat, because you segue right into what I was going to ask you, which is, as you mentioned, Sarah and Shannon, part of your staffs at GA, part of some new faces on the staff with Coach Sanders coming in as to be the help to run the offense. Coach Pastrick, former Gator player, of course, just comes over from Oklahoma State to be on your assistant. Just tell me about this staff, especially Coach Sanders. I've never gotten, in all my years since you've been here, more people ask me about one particular hire than Coach Sanders because of his background coming over from college baseball. So I will be glad that now people will hear your answers on that. But just tell me about the kind of this staff this year. Of course, Shannon Sale, who was a GA, promoted to full-time staff as well.
Yeah, so I really just throughout the year, the change. I think what's really good, it makes it tough, but what's really good is when you have success. And the past couple of years we've had coaches leave here because they've been able to step up in their career. And so you have 2 assistants that are now head coaches, actually, and another staff member that's also a head coach on the West Coast.
You got 4. Well. You got 4 right now in Division I alone. With Victoria Haywood, obviously now in Nevada, there was your director of ops, joining Witt, obviously, and joining Becca, who's obviously at Georgia State, Witt's at App State, among others. There, I mean, that's a pretty good coaching tree you're building, is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I mean, the amount of great minds that have come through here and have helped this program along, it's been huge, and for the others that are in other assistant roles that have been able to step up in their roles with like Jen Salling and Kaya Gibson, they have also been able to do that as well. Kendra Lynch, they've been able to do that as well. So it's been nice to be able to have all those minds that have really put in the time and effort to help build this program around. But now moving forward, we were looking for something, we've had the success and okay, we need a little bit more. And so we maybe need to, grab from a different network, something that's going to understand our culture, who we're about, but push us and drive us to get past where we've already been. And that's tough to do. You don't hear a lot about, our goal is to get to the World Series, and you don't hear about a lot of teams that get there when they've never been there before. And so we're trying to change that trend. And with that, that means we need some change within our ideas and our thoughts and, helping me get past, the point of where I'm at as well. So, doing a lot of homework and talking. Our pitching staff has just really loved Shannon Sales, her time here, her presence, her experiences, her stories. And what's so cool about Shannon is when you meet her, she's so humble. She doesn't name drop. She doesn't talk about where she's been. She doesn't talk about how many, national championships she's won as a player, as a GA. She'll just say, "Hi, I'm Shannon Sale." And then, we have to name drop for her and be like, no, actually, this is, we talk about all the things that she's been able to do and has accomplished. But usually when you're really good, you don't talk about yourself in that way. So I think that was huge for our team is she loves up every pitcher in that bullpen. It doesn't matter if, they're the starting pitcher, they're the flamethrower, they're the spin pitcher, they're the closing pitcher. They're all going to get her time and effort. And she sees the game at such a great level because she didn't start out at OU as a national championship. She built up to that. And so she sees it from definitely a different perspective that I appreciate. And then bringing in Coach Pestrak, she's from Florida. She's had such success in the places she's been. She's played so many different roles, wore so many different hats. And you can tell right away. I mean, the girls will walk in and they'll say, "Hi, Coach Bear," because my office is first, closest to the front door. And they'll say, "Hi, Coach Bear." And they see Coach P and it's like their tone changes, everything changes, smile on their face. And like, they need that. Our women need that because they deal with so much pressure, which is a great thing and it's a privilege. But they deal with so many things. And so they need that person that they just lighten up when they see her, and they do. And, and I'll kind of like yell out like, "Wait a minute, I didn't get that kind of, hello." And it's just a laughing matter, but it warms my heart to see them, just have that experience walking in the door, right? And along with all of her experience and what she brings knowledge-wise to the game, she's just definitely it's UC family feeling, and it's been really nice. Coach Noah, yeah, it's he was a standing associate head coach, and to come over to softball and take this on, I had some conversations with him, and I basically he says this, so I'll kind of try to paraphrase what he says, but he was talking about like how he wants to be a head coach in the baseball world, and he was very close to being there. And I, going now into it, I said to him, "Well, that's awesome, and that's great, but you could come in over here and be in the World Series and win a World Series." And not that he couldn't do that in baseball, but I'm going to throw my best recruiting pitch to him, right? And I talked about, living in Orlando and raising a family in Orlando and all the fun things that we get to do here. And so then he called me up, a week later, and he's like, "Yeah, I want you to pick me." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, here we go." And so he talks about, he wants to win and he wants to be successful. And this game is growing. And I asked him, "Hey, do you miss the other game?" And he's like, "Nope, I'm loving it." And he also got to bring along one of his former players that's a GA here, and Christian Burnaby. So it's been really fun to have both of them, along with, if I don't mention this man, Adam DeRusha, our director of ops, who I call the chief of staff here. It's been a really fun staff. It definitely feels like family. It's great to have two assistant coaches that they have families of their own. They understand that grind. They understand the pressure. They understand that, yes, this everyone has to feel needed and wanted here, but we also have to win because we're, supporting our families as well. And so that appreciation is just, it's been really nice. And they understand too in the grind of things. And I think that we don't talk about this enough, right? As coaches, we're in a game, we're in a heated moment, and we don't get to check our tone with each other. We don't get to check, the messaging. It's just a matter of like, how do we get to win as quick as possible? How do we accomplish this goal? How do we execute as soon as possible? And sometimes messaging can't be sensitive. And so the fact that we've had those conversations already and they get it and they understand it and they've brought it up has been really nice and refreshing.
It really has. And, the baseball going to softball has been a very successful trend. I remember in the World Series, Steve Singleton, of course, the hitting coach at Texas, came over from baseball, very similar background hired. You go JT Gasso, of course, the hitting coach at Oklahoma, baseball background. Kenny Gajewski, Oklahoma State, baseball player background. Tim Walton, baseball background. So the trend is, the list what it is. I mean, it just translates. And it's not an accident. I think you kind of picked up on that, so it kind of fits there. And who knows? Could be a head coach, could add to your coaching tree. By the way, I did not forget. I wanted the audience to kind of think about, wait, he didn't mention the fourth head coach in your coaching tree currently. That's Bailey Wickness.
Bailey
your
Wickness,
friend from Gardner Webb. I didn't forget. I just wanted the audience to think about it. And then I want to throw this shout out, otherwise she'll get mad at me. Jasmine Esparza is now a head coach as well at Kobe Community College in June. So you've got 5 in a lot of different levels. To put that in perspective, you have 4 in Division I. Only Patty Gasso with 7 and Beth Torina with 5 have more coaches in their tree that are currently Division I head coaches. That's good company you're keeping there.
Wow, that's awesome. That's it's a really cool stat. It makes me proud because, this job's not easy. I know being around me is not easy too because I'm super competitive. So to see, others just growing this game when they move on is I love it. I love to hear it and see it.
But you clearly have a mindset, because I've talked to all of them that are head coaches, and they've all repetitive said they learn from you about building that culture and that vision when they go into interviews and try to insert that in their respective program. They have, for all of them, to a person, have said that's the first thing they bring up when you have come up. I mean, so that's not by accident. Is that part? I'm not saying that's what you're doing at the moment, but there is, you were an assistant at one point, so you can relate to being on that other shoe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, the biggest building year for me, or building years, were 2015 and 16 at Boise State. We had losing records, and it was very humbling because I have been pretty blessed to be a part of some very, very successful programs. And with successful softball players, successful coaches. And so to have those losing records and kind of question myself, I went to, at the time it was called the Women's Academy in Colorado. And it was really inspiring of, okay, listen, these are some of the things that you need to focus on, and just really getting back to like, the game is not who you are. It's just what you do. And, we say like, yeah, the athletes need to know that, but so do the people that are coaching and administrators. And, it's not who we are, it's what we do. And starting to really say, not only that, but it's what we get to do. And that was a huge turning point for me, because I thought, my first, I had been a head coach in the past. And I still get to, be involved in those players' lives to this day. They still reach out to me from Cosumnes River College, and, some of my biggest learning moments from then. But when I think about the time of stepping into 2015, I was like, okay, I'm just going to teach them everything I know about certain situations and like just really coach them up. And I thought they're going to, they're going to respect that because they're going to see how much of softball I know. It doesn't matter. They need to know that I care about them. They need to know that I'm genuinely getting to know them. And they need to know that like I'm going to want to know them, whether they stay within this program, they leave, whatever, and they graduate. And when I flipped that switch in my own life, and in my own brain, it really helped us and we started winning. So that year at Boise, we were the best turnaround team in the nation, right? I think we ended up winning like 17 or 18 more games than we had ever won the year before. And then it just kind of like carried on. And we got into like, no, we're gonna learn how to win in different ways. And when we start to feel good, we're gonna do more and we're gonna be motivated to do more. And so that's really where I learned some of it. And just talking to other people, when they're not getting something on the field, stop getting mad at the actual physical skill. Just go and say, hey, how are you doing? And it's so simple and it seems so simple, but it means the world. And now I'm finding like when athletes come and do that to me, I'm like, oh, okay, now it's a full circle. Like, cause they'll see like, hey, Coach Barry, you're a little stressed right now. Like, are you doing okay? Wow. And it just, again, it's more than just the game. It's more than just the wins and losses, because there's so much, again, left there on the table that we can utilize and help us grow. So that's really been, I believe, a key to who we are, the culture, why we do it, and it's more sustainable.
Let's talk about, of course, the pitching staff this year. That's always a very popular traditional question since you've been on the show, and certainly even before that. Every year, fans always ask about UCF pitching. That's a lot of tradition there. No different this year. You've got 5 arms. You got led by senior Kaitlyn Felton. Just tell us a little bit about each pitcher and what you expect from them, starting with Kaitlyn. Obviously, it was her big year now, her senior year.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch her grow and develop and really take on the role of, the veteran because she's been involved with pitching, pitching rosters and staffs that have had some great pitchers. She got to be here as a freshman with Aaliyah White as a GA. And then Gianna Mancha and Kama Woodall were her senior pitchers. And then after that, Sarah Will is coming along and pitching with her, Grace Jewell, Angelina DeVoe. She's been able to be a part of like quite an awesome pitching staff since she's been here. And it's been nice to see her take on that role of a mentor for the rest of the group and not being afraid to be feisty. I want people to kind of question like, is she a little crazy in that circle? And so it's been nice to see her take that on and believe in that. And, I've told her this before, she's got some of the best stuff of any pitcher that I've coached. And now it's just time to let that ride and go. And so it's been nice to see her kind of like let loose. And then you have a transfer with Lena Elkins. She's just really done a great job of developing and growing with our curriculum. We do a lot of different things to reach all different types of pitchers, not only learners, but also the pitchers. And it's been nice to see her develop a different type of pitch to go with her strengths. And so I'm really excited to see that go in her direction. I think when we got her, she's kind of like a gentle giant. She's got great stature and she's got good velocity and it's even increased since she's been here. And now it's just like really bringing that dog out and being okay being a dog. So that's been fun. And then Caitlin Cochran, who had some great innings and appearances last year, just seeing her being able to step in and like really take off from there. And hearing her talk more in meetings has been really nice. So I'm excited to see her have more innings and have some confidence in knowing that we're not just throwing out there to mix it up. We're putting her out there because she's the person we want in the circle, right? And so her really buying into that role is exciting and nice. So we're excited about that. Isa Vega, she redshirted last year, and uh, I'm so pleased with the amount of development and growth she's really gained as she's been here, not only from a physical standpoint, but from knowledge and just really working on the psyche of the game as well. Um, I think we're going to find a new annoyer in Isa Vega. So um, you can't replace Angelina DeVoe, but we definitely need somebody that's going to annoy. And I can see her doing that with the nasty stuff she's got as a pitcher. And then we do have six. So we have Macy Miles, who redshirted last year. She's a two-way player, so she'll play a lot of on the field hit, but then she can also eat up some innings for us as well. So we'll look for her in those moments. And then our freshman, Yesenia Lopez. Yeah, she is, I think, just right now, you look at her and you're like, okay, she's a horse. She might be a baby horse right now. And I don't know the name of the baby horse. Is it a calf? I don't know my terminology, but I see how she works. She just dominated in the fall, and then I think she still is going to think about this hit in the fall that like kind of gave up a lead in one of our games, and she has just been so determined since. And Shannon Sale and I have just been smiling ear to ear, and she's like driven, right? Because of this, like all she's thinking about is when's her next game so she can get in there. So to see how she steps onto the field, she doesn't look like a freshman. She doesn't act like a freshman. She wants the ball. She's fighting for the ball. It's been awesome. But I do think the success of our pitching staff, it is a tradition. And we talk a lot about our programs culture. And we always say, like, the game is started in the circle, or our culture is started in the circle. They're highly competitive. They all want the ball, but they are each other's biggest fans. They will push each other. They'll be honest. They're not going to tell them what they want to hear. They're going to tell them what they need to hear. But when they are out there, it's so awesome to watch them cheer for each other. And not just cheer for each other, but genuinely want them to succeed and notice when they are reaching those small goals.
Yeah, and of course, Yesenia, for those that don't know, helped Puerto Rico in 2023 win a silver medal at the Pan American Games. I think she was teammates with Gianna Mancha, which, by the way, is also on your coaching tree. She's a GA at A&M. We're going to have your husband, Bobby, keep track of all these people that players and coaching everywhere. It's a long list, but how much did that experience playing internationally will help her, because she's not your traditional freshman from that standpoint?
Yeah. Well, her and Isa Vega both have
Yep.
played for Team Puerto Rico, so it's been huge for them to have those experiences. And we got to see that with Jada Cody when she went and played with USA. And I mean, even like Sarah Willis playing in the Florida League and playing in, some different women's tournaments, just the experience that they get from those moments. Shannon Doherty playing in the Alliance and Stormy Kotzelnick playing in the Alliance. It's been huge for them to have those experiences and then bring them back and see, for Jess, Yesenia, we call her Jess, to be able to pitch against some of those hitters, she can, really lean into that, especially in a big time moment in a game of, I've been here before, I've done this, even with somebody that's older and wiser, like I've got this and I've got the stuff to do it. And same thing with Isa, her experience going, traveling over to Europe and then coming back. And it's just, they seem like they went away, maybe like a young lady and they're coming back women. But in the game of softball. And it's been nice to see, just that change in that development.
course, you mentioned Macy Miles. The reason I didn't bring her up as a pitcher is because I always feel it. I leave it blank to see because she's played so many roles and can play so many. She's like a Swiss Army knife. She's played first base. She's played right field. She could do all that. She could hit, could do a lot of different things. She's kind of like Katie Burge. I knew she was going to play somewhere or do something, but it could be everywhere. But that's kind of your roster in a way, is you have a number of these athletes that can play a lot of various positions. And I think that's been showcased in your infield this year. You have, because I think there's a perception that you don't have a lot of experience. You do. They didn't start a lot because you had an experienced group. You have a Jasmine Williams, for example, last year in the infield. So there's not a lot of time, or Jada Cody at third. So Sierra Humphreys isn't going to start as many games, but she's back with experience. Sammy Ray is back with experience. Aubrey Evans is back in your infield. Talk about your infield and how that is shaping out, especially a catcher, which might be the deepest it's ever been in this program.
Yeah. Well, and that's been fun because, Ashley Griffin's been behind the plate for us quite a bit of time. And, not having Shannon Doherty over there at first base and running the infield it's kind of like, okay, well, what are we going to do? And in my brain, I'm like, well, Ashley can go there. I mean, she played shortstop in high school. She can go there, and she's done a good job transitioning over because we do have two young catchers that are very, very good at what they do, and Beth Damon and Kylie Straught. But you're exactly right? Like Aubrey Evans is one of the most successful middle infielders that we have here, not only from a defensive standpoint, but also an offensive standpoint. I think she went the whole Big 12 season without making an error last year. And so, we were a contact, a pitch to contact type of team last year. So that speaks volumes to who Aubrey was. But you said it exactly right. Jazz Williams, if I'm not mistaken, was the number 1 2018 recruit. And so when you're maybe not playing in your, chosen spot, but you're playing behind the number 1 recruit or, ranked player out there, there's a reason for it. Right. And so, again, with Cece as well, the experience that Cece and Ray Ray had on such a seasoned team last year, the amount of innings that they played, I think is going to definitely speak to the type of athletes that they are. Because they played a great amount of innings. They got a good amount of at-bats with 11 seniors last year that could really play the game. So I'm very excited to see how it's actually really pushed them to work harder to be ready and be like, someone's gonna have to work real hard to take my spot, which has been nice to see. And then, it's just like you said, those freshmen that we brought in, they've played at a high level. They've played with some of the best athletes in their class. They've won a national championship in travel ball. So you're going to get to see experience. It just might be younger people that have that experience.
Yeah, I mean, this freshman class is part of that 3 straight top 25 classes you've brought in there. What is the identity of this freshman class? You have Izzy, Coco, Kendall, Izzy, Beth, who is one of the highly touted catchers in the country. Describe this freshman class and what they will bring to the program.
Yeah, they're very mature when it comes to just carrying themselves out on the field, taking possession of the field, the game, knowing the game. And then, I've never seen a freshman class come in and be like, yeah, I'm going to go cold tub. Right. And you're like, well, what does that have to do with the field? Well, usually we have to teach them and kind of like tell them it's mandatory to go take care of your body like that. But they're so on like being on top of taking care of their body and being readily available for the next day. And so that's been like, that to me means, okay, they're already seasoned. They know what it takes to be able to reach peak performance day in and day out, and what's required of it. And you're going to have to do things that are not comfortable, that you don't need to do. And they put it into their daily schedule. Because usually we'll see that transition into their sophomore, junior year. But our freshmen are here at the field all the time. They have full access to the cages when they want to hit on their own. And because, for them, 4 hours a day is not enough. And I sometimes have to say like, hey, it's off limits. You can't go out there. Take a break. Go be a college student. Um, and so having to do that at such a young age has been really nice to see with this group. They're also talented, and they're, we talk about it like we're going to have some of those freshmen come up and like key clutch moments, and why not them? And it's fun to have that refreshing moment because they can just go do it and learn as they go, and it's fun to be in that place right now. I'm sure it'll be frustrating at times. It has here and there, but I'm enjoying to appreciate those frustrations.
Well, you're not alone. There's a lot of coaches I've talked to that have shared the same thing, because I feel like this year the sport is so young because there was so much graduation, not just from regular seniors, but you had to lose the COVID seniors. So I feel like as a whole, the sport this year is a little younger. Even some of the opponents that are on the schedule, like Georgia, for example, at opening weekend, they're kind of in a similar boat where they're very young. So that's just part of the nature this year. What's going to make it unique is you're going to have to depend on youth this year across the board in the country here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think if you rewind back to 21 and 22 seasons, like we were pretty young back then. And so you don't know what you don't know. And usually you're a little bit more of a risk taker when you don't have, I guess, experience in the knowledge of like something won't work. So why not just go and do it? And, this game is such timing and game of luck and a chance, so that part's fun. And there are times where last year we had 11 players that were highly talented. They've also experienced failure, and so they knew like, well, remember that didn't work. And so I think both are equally good, as well as can equally provide some room for growth. So I think it's fun to have kind of that transition or that circle that we're in right now.
The outfield, again, you did lose a lot in the outfield, but you do have experience in the outfield that, again, is a little under the radar. Stormy Kotzelnick, who got into the lineup during the season, found the role. She's back. You got Maddie Simon, who you added from the portal, who's been to the World Series at Oregon State. Alexis Morgan's back for another year. Just speak of the Macy Miles. I mentioned could play the outfield. She could play everywhere. I'm pretty sure she could take my job if she wanted to as well, with her family background there, her sister. But give me the outlook on the outfield. It's going to be new, so a lot of people are going to get familiar with it, but yet it's not as young as people might think from a playing standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned quite a few people there that are going to be huge. Stormy transitioning to the outfield for us because she knows like her bat's going to be huge for our game and huge for our team. And we've kind of had left field has kind of been a position where we've rotated quite a few people in it the past couple of years. And Stormy and I really talked about like, hey, we need somebody to lock in left field and, lock it in not only from a defensive standpoint, but like that offensive position in the lineup. Like we need somebody to take over that and kind of be a staple like, Jada and Shannon and Chloe were in the lineup in years past. And so that was a great conversation, and she's just done such a tremendous job transitioning to the outfield for us. Maddie Simon, wow, such a gamer, such natural ability to read a play. We'll smoke a ball and when we're doing kind of like live situations and she's out there in the outfield and I'm like, oh, that ball's getting to the fence. And she's just like, it almost looks like she's coasting, but she gets such a good jump on it, read, and she's like caught it, sets her feet and throws. I'm like, she didn't even have to do that on the run. And I thought that was sure, Gapper, we're scoring on this run. And now these runners are having to go back and scramble. She just does everything so smooth and it looks effortless. And to have the World Series experience is, it's the first time that I've been able to say that we've had that on our team at UCF. So to be able to have that experience, and she's talked about like how this team, has really competed and grown and knows each other. And she's been able to talk about like, we have what it takes. And so that's been fun too for her to share that. And I mean, I talk about her defensive skills, but her offensive skills too, like the way she runs the bases. You see her and you're like, okay, she looks like she's, pretty strong, but she's got some power and she can really run on the bases too. So really excited to see what she does in her last year of her career here. And then we'll have some other people play in the outfield. Taylor Kittleman's kind of transitioned out there. She's got a great arm, and we just she lets it loose out there. Like you mentioned, Alexis Morgan, Ray might play a little bit out there because of Coco. Coco could also play out there. So that's what's been fun to have athletes that come in that are utility diverse type of athletes that can play different positions so that we can put the best matchups when we need to make them.
I was going to say, you might have some different lineups early in the year. For nothing, A, competition, but B, it gives you options to give teams different looks.
Absolutely. And that's, maybe we need to go a heavy lefty lineup or a heavy righty lineup or maybe like a running lineup. And so we have the opportunity to do that because of the defensive, the defensive players that we have this year. I think in years past, I would say we were probably more offensive, and then had to make late defensive replacements at the end. And this year, I would say we're equal in both. But I would say like that's one thing I didn't mention. I really like the perspective that Noah brings from the baseball side of things, and how he really focuses on, I might be the offensive coach. I may be, working with the hitters, but defense is consistent and it stays. And offense is going to go up and down, and offense is hard. And like just the little things in the game. People think like, oh, baseball just goes and swings big, but the amount of emphasis we've put on base running and small ball and how important all of those things are, and him backing that up has been so important because that's been a big part of my game and how I've always coached. And I feel like our game has kind of transitioned to going bigger, swinging bigger, no bunting, defense gets 20 minutes of practice. And so to get back to that has been really, really fun to have. And for our team to take it as seriously too has been nice.
You have a handful of seniors on this roster. Speak to the identity of the senior class and the leadership, because I know you depend on your seniors for leaders, not that they're exclusive to them, because I know you have other leaders, but speak of this senior class in particular.
Yeah, so 3 seniors that are in their last year of eligibility. Ashley Griffin is a redshirt junior. So she is a senior in school, so she's been here for some time. But yeah, Stormy, Maddie, and Kaitlyn Felton, it's fun because they do a good job of being selfish when they need to be, like working on their own game, keeping their bodies right, working on their mentality and their mindset. But then they're like, if you listen to Stormy talk about what the team needs, and she is able to like flip that switch, like I can just yell out because Stormy's such a competitor, and especially at the plate, such a competitor. And there'll be times, where I can see her like get a little frustrated of like, I wanted that pitch. And like, she'll kind of get like upset at herself, and I'll just yell out, hey, what does the team need? And she switches the gear like that now. And to see that's leadership, right? That's leadership. And the girls look up to her. Stormy's got a presence, and it can be a scary, intimidating presence. And so I love that she's able to flip that switch and be selfish when she needs to be, because the greatest athletes and competitors are, and it's not bad, and also be team first, right? And so to see that in all 3 of them, I'm really pleased with what they've done and what they're doing and giving back to this team.
All right. That was, again, a good chunk of my interview with Coach Ball-Malone. There's actually more if you want to listen to the entire interview, 1 hour worth, folks. We got into a lot more stuff, like including her TikTok dancing, We got into other stuff, but you can watch that on the In the Circle SB. That's part of Big 12 Media Week we just did last week over there in D1 softball. Let me ask you both this. You both, Don, you got to see and ask Coach Ball-Malone some questions at Media Day. Bryson, you've now covered Coach Bear since your arrival. I believe, 2021, 2022 was your first year?
Actually, I've met Coach Ball-Malone before I even became a member of the Banneret because I did a story for the student news website about the extra year of eligibility right when it was first announced, and I ended up talking to Coach Ball-Malone and Shannon Doherty about.
Oh, that's right. So you are, yeah. So give me your impressions on Coach Bear. Very popular among, I would say, Youth Night Nation. Maybe dare I say, maybe the most popular coach of the Olympic sports. Maybe right up there in general. Give me your impressions on the two of you. Bryce, you've covered her longer than Don, so I'll start with you.
So I think other than Linda Gooch, who is a lifer, I think Coach Ball-Malone might be one of the most beloved coaches here on campus right now, only eclipsed probably by Scott Frost for obvious reasons. But when you look at the Olympic sports, I remember, Eric, we rank Coach Ball-Malone as one of the higher tier. I think she was the top 5 coach in
top 10, yeah.
Coach in UCF history, and with good reason, because I think that while the founding of the program and Coach Gillespie got it off to a good start, it's Coach Ball-Malone that is the one that keeps the program at the forefront and not just, a founder's program that dips as soon as they leave. And Coach Ball-Malone has not only matched what Coach Gillespie has been able to do, but she has easily surpassed that. And she has done this with fostering this environment at the Plex that is honestly, you have to experience it for yourself to truly understand it. And I think it really comes from Coach Ball-Malone's background, a background as a mother. I think that comes a lot. There's a family atmosphere that she does, but something new that I've kind of seen from her this time around. She's called Coach Bear by the players, obviously, after Mama Bear. And throughout the time I've known her, she has very much lived up to that name. But I've noticed over the past few months, you talked about her TikTok dances and all of that. And through all of that, and over this past offseason or so, I've noticed this more nurturing side of Coach Bear. She still has that, like those Mama Bear senses that come out again. But I think that there's a much more, compassionate and nurturing form of Coach Ball-Malone, where she comes and she meets the players at their level, I think, a lot more than I feel like we saw her do, at least from my perspective on it, than before. And it's actually really heartwarming to kind of see. And I think that it kind of makes softball, I think, one of the best units that UCF sports has to offer. I think a lot of UCF's best teams kind of have that quality to them.
Don, what stood out to you?
Well, I think my view is a bit of a juxtaposition from Bryson, simply in the terms of yesterday was my first time being face-to-face with Coach Ball-Malone. And I can attest to everything that Bryson just said based off of first impressions, and also listening to your episode with her on In the Circles there, Elo. And yeah, you could tell that this is a very driven, competitive, but also family-oriented woman who has her feet placed firmly on the ground in terms of her humility, but also knows when to flip a switch and knows when it's time to go. And I think that, just the extent of her answers, she seems like a very thorough person, and I can see why she is such a popular coach within the UCF community, and I'm sure beyond. I mean, because her time at Boise State before this, she seems like she's well revered across the nation for various reasons. So the program has a good one, and I know that she's been here for a while, and hopefully she continues to be.
I remember, Don, that because Coach Ball-Malone said during Media Day that that one of the big kind of mantras that the team has this year is about being weeble wobbles, which I heard from the players. I guess it started out as a joke because the younger people on the player on the squad did not know what that was. I did not know what that was. So It turns out it's that essentially this toy that you hit it down and it bounces back up. Think maybe I date myself here, and so maybe someone might get this, but it's like that training dummy in Kung Fu Panda that Poe fights. It comes back up and hits him.
Yeah.
Don gets it. So it's sort of like that, and I really like that mentality, and it's only like that because of the environment that Coach Ball-Malone kind of fosters.
Mm-hmm. She has, and she has been recruiting top notch. This freshman class that comes in this year was ranked 24th in the country according to Extra Innings Softball. The one only better than that in the history of the program was the year before, that had the 16th highest ranked class in the country. Those are the two highest recruiting classes. And when we come back on this special edition of Night Shift, you're going to hear from some of the players. You're going to hear Bryson and Don's conversation with sophomore Sierra Humphreys, the unanimous all Big 12 freshman performer from a year ago, and a much expanded role for her this year. Plus, you'll also hear from junior Aubrey Evans and senior pitcher Kaitlyn Felton. That and much more when we return on this edition of Night Shift.
For all the latest news and analysis from every UCF sport, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, your home for the UCF Knights on SB Nation. We bring you all the latest news and in-depth analysis from across Knight Nation, from football and hoops to golf and tennis. If you want to stay on top of all things UCF, visit blackandgoldbanneret.com, powered by SB Nation.
All right, welcome back to this edition of Night Shift. All right, let's get into this team now. Let's get to learn. You heard Coach Ball-Malone obviously talk about this roster in depth. I'm going to share you guys my thoughts. Let's each class. Let's start with the freshman class, because I think, to me, the story of this Knights team this year, it's very interesting, guys. Last year, the narrative was the senior class, the last dance, 11 seniors, the greatest senior class ever. In an odd way this year, this team is defined by its youth and the freshmen and the sophomores. So I think it's and it really part of the future, the core, which to me, I remember, Don, we've talked about previous Night Shift episodes. I remember even during football season about the core, having a core to build around for the next year. And that's what this year is about, is building that core, youth core, getting them the experience and get them ready for the years to come. So let's start with the freshman class. And for those that may not be aware, again, ranked 24th in the country. So the names that you got to need to know from the freshman class. You go Coco Jaimes, infielder, Riverside, California. Look for her to be more of a starting second baseman. Could play some right field. Very talented hitter from California. They're very excited. I know the staff's very excited about her. I expect her to have a big role from this team on the freshman class. You also have Izzy Merdez, who is an infielder that can play multiple positions in the infield, including first and third. I expect her to get some at-bats in multiple positions. Could be also a DP option. We'll see how they use her from that standpoint. Kendall Yarner. Yarnell is the kid, could play first base out of Kansas. Big power bat. And that's something you're going to hear about this freshman class with Kendall Yarnell, as well as Beth Damon. Beth Damon is a catcher, the highest rated catcher recruit in the history of the program, and the second highest in the history of the infield. She was ranked 24th best player in the country in her class, according to Extra Innings Softball. Has tremendous power. And Bryson, I know you spoke to her and you were intrigued because she's from Edmond, Oklahoma, 15 minutes away from Oklahoma City. Her family goes to the College World Series every year. They have tickets to it, but she actually wanted to get away from the state of Oklahoma to be here and really play for Coach Ball-Malone.
Yes, exactly. I was actually quite intrigued by that notion. You won't hear it on the interview on the Black and Gold Banneret YouTube channel. Subscribe for all the other interviews we got during Media Day. We actually bantered a little bit beforehand about the movie Twisters, which we both watched, and of course that takes place in Oklahoma. But yeah, I think it's really interesting that somebody from, I would argue, the heart of the softball community in the United States in Oklahoma would come to UCF of all places. She was looking at both the East and the West Coast, by the way, for that. So it's interesting to see her make the journey here. And it'll be interesting to see what she brings to the catching position, though she can play first base as well. So I'm almost thinking that we could, because I talked to Ashley Griffin as well, who's listed as a catcher first base. I'm wondering if we could kind of see a bit of a rotation between those two, with Kylie Straught maybe factoring in a little bit as well. So that's already a stack behind the plate right there.
It's the deepest in the history of the program that I can remember. And it'll be, and that's what's going to be interesting as they figure this out in the first few weeks, is kind of, do they have a set pattern? Do they certain catchers catch certain pitchers? We shall see. But I expect to see a lot of Damon. They're very high on her from this freshman class. Other notables: Isabella Vega, redshirted last year, will pitch this year. You heard Coach Ball-Malone in the interview I did with her kind of call her like, hey, could be another annoyer, which of course brings up Angelina DeVoe, who's referenced as the annoyer. She would get, and I think that tells me Vega could be at least early on start off as a weapon coming out of the bullpen. Taylor Kittleman, redshirted last year as well, very vocal person, great personality. She's in the mix to play in the outfield, maybe some center, maybe right field, there to get some playing time. And then certainly the freshman that everybody's talking about, Yesenia Lopez, freshman pitcher, played on the Puerto Rican national team, led him to the silver medal in 2023, the highest touted recruit pitcher in the history of UCF softball. Think about that, since Shelby Turnier. Shelby Turnier, they're about the same ranking. Shelby Turnier, UCF Athletic Hall of Famer. The history of this pitching staff, and Lopez is certainly very high on that. She was teammates with Gianna Mancha, who, Bryson, you covered. There's been a lot of comparisons between her and Gianna Mancha. And that's going to be fascinating because we know what Mancha could do. So that's the freshman class. Don, what stands out to you about that freshman class I just read off?
Yeah, no, I mean, this is clearly a strong class, and I got a little bit of time to speak with Yesenia Lopez. And, yeah, I mean, she ranks 35th in the nation in the 2024-25 recruiting class by extra inning softball. It's going to be interesting to see what she brings to the circle and brings to this rotation. She is one of those people that she seems very easygoing. I mean, she even mentioned during our brief chat that at one point, I'm paraphrasing here, but she's like, oh, it's just softball. Like, she's just very nonchalant. And I'm like, yeah, it is just softball, but how does that flip, or how does the switch flip for you when you go on the field? And she said, basically she just channels her alter ego. And so I think we're going to see a fierce competitor out there, which is listed in her bio. And I think that she's going to be a good fit for the team in general. I feel like she will be one of these freshmen. And while Coach Ball-Malone calls this young class mature, I think that she will be one of the catalysts of that maturity and the maturation process for them.
She comes to Orlando by way of NYC, by the way, from the big city to Orlando. Eric, is this the first time that you've ever called a player that shares your name from the press?
Yes, that plays for UCF. I believe it's the first Lopez that plays for UCF. For those that are wondering, no, we're not related. Very, very good. But I got to meet her parents. Interestingly, her parents speak Spanish. She doesn't speak as much Spanish because she doesn't have to. She's kind of like me, or I do talk Spanish, but not a ton. But she is electric. She is competitive, and she is the future in the circle. She could be the next great one if things go as planned. And if she has that type of impact, like a freshman there, that will be a key to this season for them in that pitching staff. So that's the freshman class to kind of watch for some of the players in the roles there. Then, of course, this sophomore class, ranked 16th in the country. And the headliner in that sophomore class is one Sierra Humphreys, of course, who is a highly touted sophomore, was an all Big 12 performer a year ago in her time. And keep in mind, she was playing behind Jada Cody at third base, but she learned a lot. And there's big expectations this year. Of course, she comes from her family where her mom was a 3-time national champion at Arizona. Her sister, KK Humphreys, played at Oregon. If you remember last year, they played each other in Eugene, at the Mary Nutter. Oregon won that game. I talked to her about that in the interview I did with her on In the Circle. But you two gentlemen had a chance to talk to Sierra Humphreys, didn't you? And tell me a little bit about what you guys talked about.
Yes, Don and I both teamed up to talk to Sierra Humphreys in this one, and it was quite a great interview, I will say, because I think out of all of the returning players, I think from an accolade standpoint, I think Sierra might be the best among them. You said it, unanimous all Big 12 freshman team, 333 batting average. She got 8 stolen bases on there as well. I think it's funny because because you don't expect sophomores to really be like a leading presence on a team, but Cece can do that. They call her Cece, by the way, if you don't know. She can do that. I don't know. What about you, Don? This is the first time you meeting her. I saw her last year. What were your first impressions about Sierra?
Yeah, I know. She seems like another energetic presence for this team. She seems like someone that's ready to go, ready to play within her role and continue to contribute as she has. She's much like the rest of the team. She seems just really excited to have a top 25 opponent right off the bat in Georgia. She thinks that it brings a lot of value to the upcoming Big 12 play. And she also spoke to the camaraderie of the team in general. I think that this is someone that, though they are just coming into their sophomore season, they are going to seem like more of a veteran presence than you might think. You might look at Sierra Humphreys and think, oh, that's a senior player right there. No, she's only going to be a sophomore. So definitely going to be exciting to watch.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's hear the interview you two gentlemen had with Sierra Humphreys.
All right, CC, welcome back for another season. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing all right. So what's it like to have a full off season just kind of here with the team this time?
Obviously it was really fun to have the team around, and all of us, we really got to know each other on this off season. We've all gotten to know like how we are as players and what we'll need for the team in the long run.
You were a unanimous all Big 12 selection last year. What do you feel like you've learned from your freshman season that you can now bring into your sophomore year, especially with this still being a young roster with a lot of incoming freshmen?
Yeah. Honestly, learning from Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty, it helped me a lot. So knowing that I have to take over that role for the newcomers is what helped me, I think, evolve as a player in general this year.
Well, Shannon is coming back to the squad this year just as a GA on the coaching staff this time around. How has it been to kind of have her go from your teammate to kind of your coach in a way?
Yeah, she plays a really huge role in all of our, I think, all of our plays, to be honest. She's really open with, like, the knowledge she gives us, and she's willing to give us fungo whenever she wants or whenever she feels, yeah.
You're about to start the season, kind of a tough doubleheader coming up, second game being against top 25 Georgia. How important are these difficult non-conference games, especially when you look ahead to Big 12 play?
Yeah, so we call this phase 1, so obviously we'll call phase 2 Big 12, phase 3 postseason. All phases are really important to us, but coming out, I think we'll set the tone and how we'll show like the softball world who we are and what we're willing to do this season.
So after being named an all Big 12 freshman squad, you bring in another squad of freshmen who coaches been very highly talking about very highly so far. What's it been like welcoming them into the fold this time around, kind of being on the other side of things?
Yeah, it was honestly really easy. They're really open-minded and they're willing to learn whatever it takes. And I think a lot of Ashley, Aubrey, Stormy have took over a good wing of being able to teach them what I was taught last year, and I've been also a part of that.
You're pretty consistent at the plate last season as a freshman. Do you feel even more comfortable now facing the kind of pitchers, and do you feel like you have a good preview into the kind of competition you're going to face from the circle?
Yeah, I definitely feel more comfortable at the plate, and also scrimmaging our own pitchers. We have an amazing pitching staff, so knowing that I get to face them weekly and then going up, I have a lot of confidence.
Coach talked about a little anecdote about how learning about how Jada and Shannon were the two winningest players in UCF history, and now you and Ray have both started at got a lot of playing time together as true freshmen. What's it like to kind of now have her with you for another year?
Ray?
Yes.
Obviously, I love the girl. She's one of a kind. I love that girl. But knowing that I'll have her all 3 rest of my years is really exciting for us, and I think we're both very proud of each other, and it pushes us to be better every day.
So, who on this team has really stood out to you among the newcomers?
Honestly, all the newcomers have stood out to me a lot. They all came in like with a lot of competitiveness, and they seem to be very strong and really capable and mature people.
What's the biggest thing you think this team needs to do in order to get to where it wants to be at the end of the season?
I think we're all playing for each other and showing up like what we need to do as like personal and as a team, showing up every day in, day out, giving everything we've got is what we'll need to do.
Coach talked about you guys' camaraderie off the field. How well do you think that translates into a team setting, especially when it's time to flip that switch and really work as a unit?
Yeah, honestly, this team is very close. We've talked about that a lot. We've gone on like speed dates. That's what we called it. We went through like a questionnaire that we all had to fill out, and able to like get to know each other strong is going to help us get through the season.
Coach talked about how you got about Weeble Wobbles and how you guys are gonna be like that this year. How did that end up coming about, and what does being a Weeble Wobble mean to you?
Well, it started off kind of as a joke, but then she really liked how it meant, like the meaning behind it. As like the season's not going to be easy, like we're going to go through certain things, like we're going to lose, we're not going to play our strongest maybe every single game, but knowing that that's not going to hold us down or keep us from where we're going to have to be, but like letting that like fuel us and not being able to just like being held down by it.
What's the biggest thing you think this team needs to do between now and opening day?
I think we're very prepared already. I think just showing up every day, getting more excited as the day comes, and being ready to come out and show what UCF softball looks like.
Of course, you have in the info, you got Sammy, you got Aubrey, you got Ashley at first at times, and then you have Ray who can get in there as well. Considering how many players graduate this time around, how huge is it to kind of have this infield still kind of be as experienced as it is?
Yeah, I think knowing that our infield is as strong as we are, I think helps us a lot, and especially we feed off the pitchers. I think the pitchers feed off us as well. We talk a lot about Wi-Fi connection and connecting with each other, but also I feel we've done a good job bringing in the freshmen, the incomings, like everything like that.
How would you characterize this team differently from last season?
Well, obviously we're very young, inexperienced, but I think as much as people may see like that's a weakness, I think we see it as one of our strengths.
How so? How so?
Knowing that it's a lot of people's first, I think they come out really open-minded and willing to learn, and knowing like whatever it takes, they're willing to do so.
Coach, we made the comparison about how last year's team was kind of like the Yankees, where there was a lot. The Yankees, if you follow baseball now, the Dodgers, where there's a lot of like individual stars and that type of thing. Do you kind of see that a little bit, and what do you think this year's team sort of brings to it, a contrast from something like that?
Obviously, we had a lot of accolades from our seniors last year. Like everyone worked for what they got. Shannon obviously got Pegasus. Jada did as well. I think they all earned everything they got. I think this year, since we have a younger team, maybe not everyone's got as much accolades as the rest of us, but I think that's going to fuel us and want everyone to get their own accolades as well.
What's the biggest thing you want Night Nation to know about this team?
That we'll come out with some energy and we'll shock everyone.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. There was your interviews there with Sierra Humphreys, sophomore. Man, just has all the tools to be the next great one.
Well, what's funny is that I feel like we might actually have a new dynamic duo, because if you heard us talk in that interview, we also brought up her relationship with her fellow double nickname in Ray, aka Samantha Ray. It's Cece and Ray. It just sounds like an iconic duo, by the way. And we just had one leave in the form of Jada and Shannon. So, and of course, Samantha was all Big 12 for big freshman as well, 321 batting average last year. Didn't start as many games as Cece, but I think. But now with those 11 seniors graduated, Ray is now able to really break out, I think, on her own this time around. Eric, do you feel like that this might be the new dynamic duo for UCF softball now?
I do. That's why I picked them for the Big 12 Media Week to talk to them about it. And you heard Coach Ball-Malone. I think, Don, if you caught that media day, Coach Ball-Malone referenced them, texting them about the fact that Jada Cody and Shannon Doherty are the two winningest players in the history of UCF softball. I believe they have like about 182 wins under their belts as players. And Coach Ball-Malone told the story on Media Day that she texted both of those two about how cool would that be to have somebody follow in those steps. So absolutely, I think that is the dynamic duo. They're going to be linked together, part of this class. They're the headliners from this sophomore class, Don, and both will have a full-time role this year. Remember, they would have played more last year if it wasn't for the fact there was 11 seniors. You know what I mean? Like that's just the way it goes. Remember last year, Aubrey Evans was starting at second base because Jazz Williams was at short, and you had Jada Cody at third. So Humphreys had a DP. They moved Samantha Ray to center just to get her some playing time. So this year, I expect both to be in the lineup every day.
Sure. Yeah, no, I definitely think that it's a changing of the guard, but they have enough talent to keep up the consistent pedigree left behind from the former players. So, this is going to be an exciting year, guys. I think so.
You got Humphreys will probably be my guess. This is all my projections. I have Humphreys at third starting there. I think Ray's interesting. I expect Ray to be the top of the order, hitting leadoff hitter, perhaps. We'll see. I think she'll start at second base. She could also start at center field. I could see her starting at both positions because they might try some different lineups. For example, if she's starting at second base, you probably have Maddie Simon, which we'll talk about later in the show, playing center possibly. If Samantha Ray's starting at center, you might have Coco James playing at second base. I learned that pronunciation, by the way, during media day.
Yeah, I made that mistake earlier. I wanted to apologize.
It's just like, it is what it is. But,
Man, it looks like I dodged a bullet on media day. I didn't get a chance to talk to Coco, so it looks like I dodged a bullet there.
So it's fascinating there and that deal. So we'll see how that goes with those two.
So now I don't want not to take away from like the dynamic duo of CC and Ray, but there are other sophomores on this squad, Eric, and I wanted to get a chance to ask you about them. Macy Miles ended up redshirting last year, so she's still technically a sophomore for this season as well. You also have I mentioned her earlier, Kylie Strott from the Central Florida native from Longwood, coming back as part of that deep catcher group you mentioned. And then Alexis Morgan, outfielder that only came in 12 games last year as a pinch runner, but scored seven runs. Just what could we see from this group of sophomores that kind of got kind of a bit buried because of how like senior heavy last year's squad was?
Yeah, I agree. Alexis Morgan's fascinating to me because she really kind of became that weapon off the bench as far as a pinch runner. She's probably, vying to play in the outfield, could play the corner outfielders. She'll probably get some starts in the outfield, but I could also see her coming off as being a weapon as a pinch runner. So I think she'll have a role, one or two. I think it depends on matchups and everything.
Maybe
you mentioned
outfielder?
A what?
Maybe like a fourth outfielder role?
Maybe. That could be a factor too. Yeah, could be. Depends on some lineups. Yeah, that's fair. You look at Kylie Strott, she's going to be catching, good, strong defensive catcher. Her dad, by the way, did you know, is a radio host locally in Orlando for a country music station. I don't know if either one of you are big country music fans there. I don't know.
Wait, 92.3?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Did you say, he's at all the games, Bryson? I'll introduce you to him. He's the radio personality. Trust me, he's Jay Edwards. Yeah, he's pretty well known. So it's always a fun little stat there. I don't know if Don, if you or anybody in the family are country music fans, but
no, not really. But I believe you.
Yeah, the drummer says that.
Yeah, I know.
I was gonna say that's why I was trying to make a connection in music.
No. You did your best. Yeah,
I did my best.
That was the one genre I really didn't cross into.
So, and then you got, to me, one of my favorite people in the history of me covering UCF softball is Macy Miles, who, for those that are aware, is the daughter of Les Miles, football head coach, national champion, who I've got to meet. Bryson, I don't remember. Did you meet Les Miles when he's been at the games? I don't know if you did or didn't. I don't remember.
I think I spoke to him briefly once as he was leaving a game. And so nothing look, you got to respect a guy's time like that. And so I just wanted to get a chance to say hello and all of that. And it'd be nice to have a longer conversation with him at some point.
I have done that. I've talked to him. I have talked to him and the wife, obviously the mom of Les Miles, who's a former women's basketball player and women's basketball coach. So it's a family of athletes. Macy Miles is somebody that is going to pitch, can also play right field, can also play first base. As I've told her, I'm calling her the Swiss Army Knight. because really she serves a lot of different roles. And I hope she does. She redshirted last year, good team person. And I think that's somebody I'm intrigued to see how she gets used. So we'll see with that, with Lesson, the wife. I said mom of Macy Miles, by the way, clearing that up, the mom of Macy Miles. But so we'll see how that goes. So I'm really intrigued to see how she ends up getting used. I think I'm really intrigued by her. And I hope she has a really great year. She's I always enjoy talking to her. Did you know, gentlemen, 14 years ago, I think she was 7 or 8 years old, she sang the national anthem in front of a sold-out Alex Box Stadium at LSU baseball.
Wow.
Can you imagine? Would you have been able to do that, Don, at like 7, 8 years old?
The biggest crowd I played in front of, Elo, I did a drum solo in front of my middle school talent show. That was probably like 700 students, and I was several years older than even she was, and I was scared. So props to her, being in 2nd, 3rd grade and pulling that off.
She did. She pulled it off very well.
I was lecturing an entire community college classroom about planets when I was like 5. So I look there. It takes confidence to do that, and I can really appreciate that about someone.
In fact, it wasn't really her choice. I think they kind of said, "Hey, you should just go ahead and do that." I mean, what are you going to say? Like, okay.
Oh yeah, exactly. I might have to ask her about that.
Yes.
One last sophomore that we need to ask you about, Eric. I think that we could probably affectionately call her UCF's secret sophomore, because Destiny Washington transferring in from Marshall, but she's unable to play for this 2025 season. I think it's because she transferred during the fall, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, correct. She transferred after the fall, and by rule, you have to sit out the next semester. So it just so happens that's the season. I think obviously this is a pickup for next year, 2026. She'll be basically a big part of their outfield plans next year, is my guess. I mean, if you look at the outfields, we'll get to, you got a couple of seniors in the outfield with Stormy Kotzelnick and Maddie Simon to transfer from Oregon State. So you're going to need some outfielders next year, and I think she would fit in there.
So, sorry, Bryson, go ahead.
Well, no, you're good.
I was going to ask Elo, moving away from the roster a little bit, not to look too far in the rearview mirror here, but I was not present for this team last season or seasons prior. This is my first year. So I want to ask, with such a strong incoming class, do you think that they have the firepower to break the sub 500 record that in Big 12 play that they faced last season? Because I see they went 3-7 down the stretch. Obviously, when you run into Oklahoma, that's going to make
and Texas. Yeah, you're right into the 2 best teams in the country. 6 times.
Yeah, they were also swept by Baylor, and that's who they lost to in the Big 12 softball championship as well.
Yeah, correct.
Baylor is a top 25 team coming into the season, ranked at 16. They don't have to face them quite at the end of the year, but a little closer to the end of the season than the beginning or middle. Do you think that they have what it takes to kind of break some of those woes and stay a little more competitive towards the end?
I think it depends on what they get from the pitching standpoint and how fast this young group, freshmen and sophomores, grow up. The Big 12 was the number 2 conference in the sport last year. I think it will be the number 2 conference in the sport again this year. You didn't mention Oklahoma State, the favorites who got to the World Series. The UCF hosts them in Easter. So it is not an easy schedule. You've got new additions of Arizona, who UCF actually will open Big 12 play at Arizona. Sierra Humphreys will get to play at the stadium in Hillenbrand where her mom played back in the mid-90s when she teamed with Jenny Dalton Hill and played for the legendary Mike Kendrea, and they won that dynastic Arizona team in the 90s. So it's young, but here's the beauty thing, Don. You don't have to go worry about necessarily being sub 500 in the Big 12 and not make the tournament. You can make the tournament. UCF made the tournament
They did.
Despite that. So that's the benefit. If you were in a mid-major, you would not. You would be doomed. But if you go 500 or close to that in the Big 12, you're going to make the NCAA tournament more times than not. In softball, at least, I'll speak to that. And most Big 12 sports, to be quite frank about that. So, yeah, I think they can. It's how quick do the youngsters, freshmen and sophomores, grow up, and especially, what kind of pitching they get.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And yeah, it seems that they suffered the same fate that the men's did, running into a good Florida State team, basically a home game,
Yep.
with Tallahassee.
Yeah, we both love those Tallahassee regionals there.
Oh, yeah. So, no, and I think that that's where the value of a Georgia on the second game of a doubleheader on opening day, that's going to throw you right into the fire, and so it's going to force you to grow up quick.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely break down the schedule a little more, but we do have to talk about the upperclassmen on this squad. They may be smaller in number this time around, but Don, I think it was Don, you mentioned this, you talked about having a core. And while it's certainly a smaller core than last year, I think that this group of upperclassmen is able to carry on their torch in a way, because I know we've been talking about Samantha, the rise, meteoric rise of Samantha Ray and Sierra Humphreys, and then the hype of this freshman class. But let's not forget, Aubrey Evans was a freshman phenom when she was here, when she first came into Orlando, and she's entering into her junior season. Coming off of last year, 268 batting average. Of course, she had a lot of extra base hits in her freshman campaign. I mean, you have Lena Elkins transferring in from Charlotte. You got Caitlin Cochran, pitcher junior as well. And then Ashley Griffin as a redshirt junior is back again, team captain this time around. Eric, just what's the biggest thing you're seeing from these juniors now that they are entering into upperclassmanhood?
Well, first of all, I remind people this junior class was ranked 25th when they came in as freshmen. This was part of the 3 straight top 25 freshman classes that Coach Ball-Malone has brought to UCF. And, Ashley Griffin, can she stay healthy? That's the big question. That's been what's been bugaboo to her. But when she's healthy, she's legit. She'll catch, but I think she'll also play a lot of first base, as you heard Coach Ball-Malone mention. Kind of like Ben McCabe. Bryson, remember Ben McCabe got moved to first base by Greg Lovelace to keep him healthy, because catching is a tough position. So I think that's something I would kind of make a similar comparison to Ashley Griffin from that standpoint. As far as the rest of the junior classes there, you're talking, to me, Aubrey Evans is the center point. She started at second base last year. I think she'll play more at shortstop, her natural position this year, but I think she'll also still play some second base. And Don, you got to talk to Aubrey Evans at Media Day.
I did. Yeah. I had a good chat with her and just kind of talked about her growth and what she learned these past 2 seasons and how she hopes to be a veteran presence for this team and truly a two-way threat, not only good at the plate, but she's really become quite the defender. Ranked 9th in the Big 12 in total assists with 95 last season. And when you're talking about a top softball conference in the country, that is quite the feat. Also got her errors down from 8 to just 1. She talked about mechanics and understanding, where to be on the field, positioning in general. And so I think that she is going to be a real bright spot in this lineup, and some that they're going to need that from her, especially when the competition begins to really ramp up.
All right, let's hear Don's interview with Aubrey Evans.
So you're entering your junior season. How excited are you to be returning, especially in an era where transfers are happening all over college sports? And what has it meant to you to be at UCF for the first 2 years of your collegiate career?
Yeah, I mean, it's meant everything to me. Coach Bear and just who she is as a person on and off the field. She loves you for who you are, but then she wants to compete daily. And so coming in freshman year and just learning the ways I was talking about earlier, just Shannon Doherty and Jada Cody kind of taking me under their wing. I've learned so much from them. So being here, this day and age with the transfer portal, it's great and all, but I'm super loyal to where I've committed to, and that's here. And I'm just excited to see where my wings can continue to go here and what this program can do, because I know we can make it to the World Series, and that's my end goal by my senior year. And so I've just enjoyed every single moment. I'm close to home, so my family gets to see all my games, but I've loved every second being here at UCF.
Yeah, I talked to Coach and mentioned how this is like one of the top recruiting classes for the program, but it's also a very young team, very young roster in general. So what does it mean to you to kind of be in that veteran role now? You're entered your 3rd season, and how do you hope to lead some of the younger players and help them out?
Yeah, I remember their shoes. It goes by fast. Just 2 years ago, they come in, they're quiet, trying to find out who they are. And, their role on this team. And so my biggest goal has just been to pour into them everything I've learned, because again, I learned so much from those older girls. And so I just want to be there for those people, those freshmen that, might not feel super comfortable. And, they've all grown since August, whenever we first got on here. It's a super talented class. Every single one of them, all 5 of them, have something unique to bring to this table. And I'm super excited just to see kind of their platforms and how they use it and how they are going to help push this team to new heights. And I'm super excited to see them get after it and be in their corner the whole way.
You were very consistent at the plate your first 2 years, but you've also really taken a step defensively. I mean, your freshman season, you had 8 errors. You cut that down to just 1 last season while also boosting your assist total. What have you learned at the collegiate level that's helped you become a better defender, and what do you hope to bring into this season on that side of the ball?
Yeah, again, just staying consistent, being reliable in the field. I think what I've learned most is just like pitch tendencies and where hitters typically hit those pitches. So being, set up in the right spot and having that, what's the word I'm looking for? Having that oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now.
That's okay.
I'll think of the word. But just knowing where the ball is going to come, being prepared at all times. I think that's helped me a lot. Obviously, the coaches, I give a lot of credit to that. Footwork is another big thing, but it all comes down to a mental game as well. You got to believe in yourself, believe in the girls beside you, and I think that's what has also helped me succeed.
Yeah, you guys got a doubleheader coming up for opening day. Tough one on the second one of that doubleheader against number 16 Georgia. How much value do you think these tougher non-conference games brings to the team in general?
I think it brings so much value. You can learn so much, especially early on in the season. This is the time to learn, and once we get into conference play, it's time to go. It's time to go all the time. But you learn a lot early on in the season, and then that's how you succeed at the end as well, learning and growing. So I think these non-conference, top 25 teams that we're going to play is going to help us in the long run, just to be familiar with, because we play a tough conference schedule as well. We're one of the best softball conferences in the nation. So I think those top 25 teams that we're going to be playing, not only Georgia, but when we go to Clearwater as well, is just we're only going to benefit.
All right. That was Aubrey Evans, a Popka Zone. Did you know, gentlemen, that Aubrey Evans' dad is friends with one Brock Purdy's dad?
Wow. There you go.
The families know each other, friends.
I vaguely remember you telling me that last year, I believe, Eric.
That's going to be brought up a lot when UCF host Iowa State this year in Big 12 play. Just throwing that out there.
I'll have to search for redemption if I'm in that post game, because I neglected to ask her about that connection.
That's all right. Not many know that.
Little ESPN Plus broadcast tease for you right there. Don't think I didn't notice that, Eric. Don't think I didn't notice that.
Thank you very much.
Of course, though, we also have these 2 junior pitchers with Kaitlyn Cochran coming back for another season and Lena Elkins transferring in from Charlotte.
Well, keep it. Let's first start with Elkins. She was a transfer out of Charlotte. Interestingly, her and Cochran play together on the Georgia travel ball team, the Georgia Impact. So they know each other. In fact, Cochran was the one that showed her the campus when she, I guess, made her visit before deciding to transfer to UCF. I think she's a big wild card as well, this pitching staff. And you notice Elkins, a junior, multi-year eligibility there. You notice with Coach Ball-Malone there, multi-year eligibility on the pitching. A little kind of taking a page out of Scott Frost in football, looking for athletes with multi-year eligibility there.
Yeah, it is rare for Coach Ball-Malone to do kind of a one and done. I think the only ones that I remember, the only one that really sticks out was Kama Woodall. I think Woodall.
Correct. And boy, that was worked out, isn't it?
But to be fair though, she was not the main show on that squad. She was a great number two pitcher, but that essentially filled a hole. It wasn't a main piece. And I think that Coach Ball-Malone, has been one of the best coaches on campus with the transfer portal. And I think that this type of thing is showcasing why. I wonder if Scott Frost took notes.
It may be the two, but Elkins will have a role, and so will Cochran. And I think that, to me, what you have there in that pitching staff as a group will be very key. And I think Elkins, you hope she develops that growth. Sarah Willis, remember, 2 years played here at UCF. Think of the growth Sarah Willis had from when she got here to, well, obviously, by the time her career ended, which is one of the 6 best pitchers in the history of the program, currently playing still professionally at Athletes Unlimited. So this junior class is very good. It's very strong. Aubrey Evans will be the key to that defense for sure on that. And then let's just go ahead to the senior class, the captains of the senior class, because I mentioned Elkins and I mentioned Cochran in the pitching staff. The leader of this pitching staff is the captain, Kaitlyn Felton, who you got a chance to catch up with, Bryce, at Media Day.
Yes, I still remember when Kaitlyn was a highly touted freshman, and I almost kind of feel like that because Sarah Willis came here, she ended up getting a bit overshadowed a bit. She's a very understated pitcher, I think, in my opinion. While I think she reminds me of kind of Kama Woodall, actually, funnily enough, in that way, where I don't think she's your ace, but she is a major presence in the dugout as far as a leadership standpoint. But in the circle, she's very much that type of really like gutted out number 2 type of pitcher. It's not going to be flashy, but she gets the job done, I think, more often than not. So let's go ahead and hear what Kaitlyn had to say during Media Day. What is it like being on the verge of your last season?
It's a bittersweet moment. I'm just taking it day by day. I love being here with this group of girls. This group of girls has helped grow my love for the game of softball. I'm embracing the moments with Coach Bear. It just means a lot, just being through this program, through everything it's been through these past 4 years, and seeing it grow, and how much like a core values and everything and culture here has stayed the same and like carried us through being such a successful program. It just means a lot being a part of it.
What is the difference between the Kaitlyn Felton that first walked on here on campus versus the one that we're looking at right now?
I'm a lot more confident now. I don't question myself as much. Coach Bear has definitely helped out with that. I'm definitely a better teammate. I learn from my teammates. I'm even learning from girls like Jess, who it's her first year here, but we throw bullpens together a lot, and every day I'm learning something from her. Yeah, it's just this young group of girls is really pushing me to be better for this program.
Speaking of those younger groups of girls, what has it been like welcoming them to the fold, and who's really stuck out to you so far?
Honestly, this whole freshman class has really stuck out. They're really hard workers. Coach Bear talks about Weeble Wobble, and they're some of the most resilient people on this team. It's been such an honor to work with them, and like I said, every day they push me to be better. They want to learn just as bad as they want to compete, and it's really fun to play with them.
So how did that Weeble Wobble thing end up coming about, and what does that mean to you?
Coach Bear just brought it up in one of our pre-practice meetings one day, and she explained how it was a toy and how it's like you hit it, but you don't knock it down. It's going to come back just as hard. And to me, it just talks about being resilient. We play a lot of top teams here very early on, and whether it's physically or mentally, we need to be able to come back and like play, recover, play, and be in the moment instead of letting failure, because this is a game of failure, instead of letting it take us down.
How would you characterize this team differently from last year, given that you graduated so many people?
This team is really mature, especially for how young we are, and we just love to compete. We play like it's our last day of softball every day. We play like a bunch of kids on the playground, and it's super fun. Like, we move on from things really fast. We face adversity really well, and I'm just excited to see how that plays out throughout the season.
Of course, you do have 2 of those players back as GAs, and Shannon and Sarah. How big is it to have them back into the fold, especially in your terms with Sarah as a pitcher?
It's great. They have so much knowledge they can share, and they're just always here to help out, especially like Sarah's been catching our bullpens, which has been super fun, just having her in the bullpen in a different way. They just have so much knowledge, and we get to pick their brains a little bit and learn from them and their experiences. And especially with them being seniors last year, I've been talking to them about like how I should approach this year, like take every moment like it's the last one, and really be where my feet are.
Of course, you have your fellow pitching returners in Kaitlyn and Macy. and Macy, what has been like? What have they've been learning over the course of this past season, and what can we see from them this time around?
We're all going to be pitching as a staff this year, so there's going to be a lot of innings out of everyone, and we've all just been kind of learning from each other and how we're going to play off of each other when this season goes on. Coach Bear is really good at pitching a whole staff, and I'm really excited to see how we play off of each other.
What does this team need to do in order to get where it wants to be by the end of the season?
I think just we need to stay how we are right now. We need to keep facing adversity well. We need to stay competitive even if we get knocked down. This team is very young and we just want to compete, and I think we just need to keep that energy throughout the entire season.
What's the biggest thing you want to make sure that you guys have nailed down before opening day in a few days?
Just like mental toughness, being resilient. We play a lot of really big teams right off the bat, so being able to stick through that, good or bad, and just carry that on. How big is it to have Sarah back in terms of having a GA, considering that she ended up having a lot of innings last year, and that's some production that needs to be filled? Yeah, it's great just getting to learn from her, and like how you said, like the physical load on her. She's been talking to us a lot about recovery and things like that. Just her sharing her knowledge on her experience has really helped out the staff.
What will the Knights notice about this year's team that maybe is different from last year's?
We're going to be really loud this year. We're going to be having a lot of fun, even more so in the past. If you were to walk by the field, who's playing on the field.
And that was senior pitcher Kaitlyn Felton. Thanks very much, Kaitlyn, for your time. And yeah, I think that she is a major sticking point with this senior class, if only because she is the one that kind of brings that experience with it. Of course, they'll have GA Sarah Willis to help them out off the field, but from an on-the-field standpoint, Kaitlyn Felton will definitely be quite key indeed. Also among this senior class in the field, we have transfer Madison Simon, a fifth-year coming from Oregon State, and then coming back, who another multi-year transfer, Eric Stormy Kotzelnick, who first transferred in from Louisiana before last off season, and now she's back for her senior season.
Yeah, I expect her to have a big year. I think she's more comfortable this year than she was UCF. Remember what was weird about her last year? She last fall, she had no idea if she was going to play or not, because she was waiting to see if transfer, she had transferred for the third time with, back then there was a question, are you allowed to play or not? And then she got approved in December, I think late November, actually. So this year she knew she was going to play, and I think she's much more comfortable. She'll be in left field for most of the year this season. Ashley Griffin, by the way, is a redshirt junior, but technically is a senior. We'll see what happens there. I wanted to mention that. I forgot about that earlier.
Yeah, academically, Ashley is a senior. She's listed on the roster as a redshirt junior. That's why we put her in there, because that's why we put her in there.
Yes, that's correct. Maddie Simon's a transfer from Oregon State. First player ever to play at UCF softball that has played in the College World Series. She was part of the Oregon State team that made the World Series in 2022 as a freshman. How about that?
Okay.
She was also on the Puerto Rican national team with Lopez and with Vega. So that's part of that trifecta there.
Yeah, quite the transition for Simon, going from one coast to the other in her final year after spending freshman through senior season at Oregon State. And I asked her why, and part of the reason was she was really interested in UCF's pre-med program. She wants to go into medicine following her collegiate career, and she also has a connection with the program prior to this. So, I think that just really speaks to Coach Ball-Malone's recruiting abilities to get someone who's a mainstay at Oregon State. That's like if Kaitlyn Felton up and transferred. So we'll see what happens there.
A real Puerto Rican flair on this squad this time around.
Little pipeline there.
But considering Coach Ball-Malone's tendency to get multi-year transfers, the fact that that she did this with a one-year person, I feel like that in a way it makes the one-year rentals stand out all the more, because she normally goes for the multi-year transfers. It makes the one-year rentals stand out all the more to me.
I want to give a shout out to senior Deanna Cunningham, walk on walked onto the team, wanted to try out, always wanted to play, student at UCF, plays the infield, earned the spot as a walk-on, and is going to help them a lot in practice and a lot of the other stuff too there behind the scenes. So,
hey, UCF loves their walk-ons. Remember how Addition Financial Arena goes crazy for Pupa Waller-Nugro.
Oh, it's a good call. It's a good comparison. So that is the roster, folks, in a nutshell for the Knights here in 2025, and it'll get going this weekend. They got one of the marquee tournaments. Got Cal State Bakersfield, Georgia, Illinois, NC State, JMU in that field. Then it gets, this first part of the schedule is unbelievable. Then they play Missouri on a Tuesday midweek, got Liberty on Wednesday, the same night that men's basketball plays Iowa State. Oh! Actually, no, is Iowa State Tuesday or Wednesday? Which night is the Iowa State?
Let me double check that for you, Elo. I'm going to have to real quick.
Bryson knows my experience on this. I try to do the double dip, and it's sometimes it's it varies. It's very tight and good, touch and go.
I want to wager it's a Tuesday.
So I think it's the night of the Missouri game. That's right. It's the night of the Missouri game. Oh.
Hey, it worked for the Houston game last year, Eric. But I'll say this: if there a name. I would say one of the better traditions that UCF softball has kind of created in the time that I have followed it. Georgia on opening night. I got to bring it up, Eric. What's it like to see Georgia coming back now after having that call for them a few years ago?
Well, it'll be the third time in 4 seasons they opened the season on opening night against each other. They split the first two. The one you're referring to, 2022. That was your first game, wasn't it? Softball-wise?
I think it might have been, yeah.
I think that was your first game. I think you covered in person.
Oh, it was one. Oh, that one. Yeah, I think it was one of my first. Yeah, because I joined in the spring of 2021, but I didn't follow softball then because I was just.
You went straight to baseball. Yeah, following the big shoes of Brian Murphy.
Yes, and so then I started going to softball in 2022, and that was my first game.
Pretty good first game.
That walk-off for Shannon Doherty. But I'll tell you what, Georgia opening night, I think, might be one of my favorite softball traditions, and selfishly, it's because I have Georgia ties in the family, so that's always fun.
It'll be interesting. Shannon Doherty, of course, with the walk-off home run to win that game. She'll be in the dugout. I have a feeling my producer and directors might have that clip ready to go. Just throwing that out there on the broadcast. ESPN Plus there. Make sure you tune into that. They go to Clearwater, ESPN. Once again, that is the 4th straight season. They were going to Clearwater as the marquee tournament in the sport. Notable there, they will play Florida State Sunday night on ESPN, 8 o'clock that Sunday night. February the 16th. They have Clemson that weekend on ACC Network. They've got to play Texas A&M, who's in the top 20. Got to play Auburn, Ohio State, which I know Scott Dunn very intrigued by, as he told me off the air with the Buckeye. So we're going to learn a lot about this young team real quick here, Bryson and Don. What else jumps out to you, Bryson, on the schedule?
Well, I think it's the fact that we got 3 top 20 teams in the span of the first week. That is they're
not afraid. They're not ducking anybody.
Oh, yeah, no, this is going to be a major test for this young squad immediately. And I think I remember Coach Ball-Malone was even kind of a little surprised herself a little bit with how tough this schedule is. But I think that, if anything, that's what this recruiting class needs, because this is going to be like a normal thing year in and year out for them. And so just throwing them in the fire right away will end up kind of proving dividends in the long run. That being said, I do think they have a bit of a reprieve between Clearwater and when conference schedule begins. They'll host the Space U Classic and the Charge On Classic with a trip to FAU wedged in the middle of that. So I think that that'll provide a relative reprieve, at least in certain matters, before they get into conference play. But that doesn't mean that the non-conference opponents are going to stop. How about 2 games each against the number 1 and number 2 teams in the country, Florida and Oklahoma? Eric, what is Coach Ball-Malone been cooking with that?
Yeah, Florida's a home and home. I picked them to win the national title in my D1 softball predictions there. Yeah, they're really loaded. And Oklahoma, they go down to Love Field for the bye week during Big 12 Shannon Sale, homecoming. Yeah, look, Coach Ball-Malone, remember 2022, she scheduled tough and earned him a hosting a regional. That's the difference. That's why she did it. It was a reward, Don, and she wants to learn about her team and get tested and playing the best.
Yeah, and to Bryson's point about playing the top teams, you got Florida for the second meeting, at least it's the home game that time, on Wednesday, March 26th, and then you get on a plane with 1 day in between before you start your series that I was alluding to earlier against Baylor. That is going to be a heater of a stretch, and it's going to be really interesting to see how this pans out.
And hey, Oklahoma might have left the Big 12, but that doesn't mean they're not off the schedule.
There you go. Let's quickly wrap this up here. The Big 12 will begin UCF at Arizona the week first, March 6th weekend. Host Arizona State March 14th weekend. Iowa State comes here. What's notable about that, March 20th through the 22nd. That weekend, they will honor the 2005 UCF team and the 2015 UCF team. There. Baseball, by the way, will be also doing alumni weekend that weekend where they host Houston. That'll be a lot of fun. UCF will also go to BYU this year in Big 12 play. They will get to go to Baylor, as Don mentioned, host Oklahoma State on Easter weekend. Don't be surprised if one of those games gets picked up by ESPN Linear channel, which not good for me, but good for the audience, good for casual fans. TV purposes exposure. On that. And, of course, senior weekend will be against Houston. The Big 12 championships will be in Oklahoma City. There should be a lot of fun there. All right. We've gone long here, Bryson, so let's go. Quick thought there.
We didn't get a chance to talk about the Big 12 preseason standings. UCF was picked to finish 7th.
That's why we didn't even do that. That's why we not. Look. Yeah, they're young. So when you're young, coaches are going to, not rank you very high. BYU was picked 5th. Utah was 6th. They were pretty close. There were about 5 points difference. Oklahoma State was the preseason favorite. Texas Tech, number 2. They have a pitcher by the name of Nyjah Kennedy, who made some headlines. She made about a $1 million deal with the NIL. Best pitcher in the sport. That's why Texas Tech's rated high. Arizona's number 3. Baylor, number 4.
Yeah, I think this conference schedule looks quite interesting indeed. It is because it starts very hard with going on the road to take on Arizona, and then of course you have Baylor on the road as well. But getting the toughest, I think, opponent in Oklahoma State on your home side will certainly be great. And you avoid Texas Tech and Utah, who are in the top half. Of the league. So I think this is actually a pretty manageable Big 12 schedule. I think, at least as far as the Big 12 can get, by the way.
If there's such a thing that exists on that, we'll see. We'll see what happens. They're a young team. People have asked me this. If you finish middle of the pack Big 12, you're going to be in the mix for the NCAA tournament. Remember last year UCF made it. You probably want to finish top 5, top 6 in the Big 12. That probably gets you in, especially with UCF's non-conference schedule. They could pull off some wins out of the non-conference. That'll be what's ironic here. Last year they went 31-25. Some people considered that a disappointment. If they go 31-25 this year, I think it would be considered a success with this young group building to next year.
Yes, I do. I very much agree with that. I don't know why you would consider last year a disappointment, at least in terms of, I understand about like emotions and that you want to see them succeed in their last year, but
they expected more. They expected more with the senior class. Remember, 12 of those 25 losses by 2 runs or less.
Yeah, and especially that Oklahoma heartbreaker. I think they only lost 1 in the middle of that series. And then they were able to hang 7 runs, but Oklahoma, being the powerhouse they are, scored 11. So there's only so much you could do.
In fact, 12 losses by 1 run, including the season finale in Tallahassee, a 2-1 12-inning game to Auburn. So,
Eric, I know that it is the same head coach, and we're now in year 2 in the Big 12, but I don't know. It just kind of feels like the start of a new era this year to me. I don't know.
For the play. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no doubt. You're turning the page of the great senior class, the Cody. I call it the Cody Doherty era, the winningest era in the UCF softball. And now you have a new era. And that's the uniqueness of college sports. And see this growth of this group. At some point you start and you grow. And I think you're hoping that this team could grow up fast. They're talented enough to compete It's just that lack of experience. How often does it show, can you be consistent? That's going to be the interesting thought of this season there. All right. I think we've talked enough softball. I got to get ready to broadcast, folks. I got 12 games this weekend.
Wait, is that Eric Lopez saying he's talked enough softball? Blasphemy.
I got to do 12 games this weekend. By the way, all of the UCF tournament this weekend will be on ESPN Plus. Make sure you check that out. It'll be me and Alex Powers. We'll do every UCF home game this year except 2 games. There could be a third game. Again, I mentioned there's some rumblings. One of the Oklahoma State games might get picked up nationally by ESPN. That should come out on Wednesday when ESPN, I've been told, will come out with their national schedule. Hey, when you're a national interest team like UCF in softball, in top 20 winningest program, you're going to get picked up nationally there. Don, tell the audience where they can find all the UCF coverage and softball in particular.
Yeah. So once again, we'll be tweeting from the X Twitter account, whatever you want to reference it these days. You can find us at UCF Banneret_SBN. You also find us on Blue Sky, UCFBanneret.bsky.social. Instagram and Facebook, we'll be bringing you post-game coverage and the links for that. Black and Gold Banneret. Same with Threads. And then, of course, the most important of them all, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. And once again, to the audience, thanks so much for helping us get 1,000 plus. And I mean, the train keeps rolling and we're always grateful and we're excited to be at this juncture of the sporting year.
And be sure to subscribe for the YouTube channel if you haven't already, because we'll be having softball post-game coverage there close to when after the game ends.
Mm-hmm. Football schedule for Big 12 will be out Tuesday. Guys will have that covered as well. Men's basketball, Don will be covering basketball the whole season. And then, by the way, college baseball will get going. Bryson and I will be at Media Day. We'll have a baseball preview show.
That actually makes 3 of us, Elo. I don't know if you knew. I'm also going to be there.
Breaking news. No, I did not. Thank you for breaking news on that.
Yes, yeah. I got it cleared with the professor today. Usually I have class on Wednesday, but I want to be there. So
well, this was fun, gentlemen. We'll do this again maybe in a week then. We'll talk a little baseball preview. How's that sound?
Stickball part 2, baby. Stickball part 2.
All right. For Bryson Turner and Don Struble, I'm Eric Lopez. We hope you've enjoyed this special edition of Night Shift, UCF softball preview. We'll hope to see you out there at the Plex throughout the season. This has been Night Shift. Charge on. Go Knights.